Wargamers, Games Workshop released a preview of how independent characters are going to work under 8th edition 40k. So let's take a look at that, see what it means for how the game might be played and what it might mean for your army in the future. Before we do that though, I want to say thanks for watching. If you like this video, if you like any of my other videos, go ahead, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell as well. That way you don't miss any of my upcoming 8th edition videos. But yeah, back to it. If you want to follow along, I have a link in the description below. But basically, we learned two main things about how independent characters are going to work in 8th. The first is that they can't join units anymore, right? Independent characters can't join units. And the second thing is that they have a way to kind of deal with independent characters not just getting picked off by shooting right away. But let's stay on topic. Let's talk about that first thing first. Independent characters can't join units. Instead, they are able to confer their special roles to units within a bubble. So just like the Ethereal has special rules that apply to units within a bubble, every independent character is going to have the ability to confer their special rules to nearby allies that match a certain keyword. And again, this is an asset of the keyword system. This is something that I liked about Age of Sigmar, and something that I'm going to like about 8th edition 40k, and that is that having it be a bubble mechanic with keywords is very simple, it's clean cut, it reduces a lot of confusion, and it makes the game a lot smoother, and I like that. You don't have to worry about rules interactions as much, or does this apply to this, doesn't apply to this, you know, is this special character this type of unit, or is it something completely different? It's all clarified by the keyword mechanic, and that's great. It's super elegant. I like it. It's good. They said that they did this specifically to get rid of Death Stars and Super Friends lists. So if you're unfamiliar with those concepts, basically in the current edition of the game, it's very easy to take a bunch of independent characters from very different armies and put them all in a single unit and have their rules interact in a way that it isn't fluffy and wasn't necessarily foreseen in the rules development process. So the example they give is Dark Angels and Grey Wolves running around. That's not fluffy, and that's not really the way they wanted those armies to work. So this is the way it's going to be from now on. And I think that's a great thing. What it means for how you're going to play the game is, one, you're going to have a tendency to want to cluster like units together around a single character potentially. So if you only have one of these independent characters, you're going to want to cluster things that benefit from its special rules around it, and that is good and bad. One is that it could potentially reduce the number of independent characters that you need to take. So like if you have a Kroot Shaper, he can't join the Kroot unit anymore, but you could have one Shaper and then multiple units of Kroot kind of hanging around him, and they would all benefit from his special rules, as opposed to having to have independent characters in each one of those units. It does mean, because that you're going to have some kind of like herky-jerky maneuvering that you have to do. Everyone's going to try to, you know, keep one foot inside the bubble. And this is something that we see now with Void Shield generators, right? Is people try to string their armies out so that they are still within the bubble, but not all right on top of each other, or with Ethereals or with Tau and supporting fire. I try to keep at least one model within the supporting fire range so that the entire unit can benefit from that special rule. So you're still this is gonna amplify that, and people are gonna want to do that a little bit more. But the alternative, in cases where you could take multiple characters, would be just to take multiple characters, and then you wouldn't have this problem. So easy fix, and I think that's going to make the independent character cost, or the character cost, a little bit more worth it too, because now you have this option to kind of free up your maneuverability. So that's good. Right, but the main issue with this, of course, now is that you have independent characters, just one dude standing out by himself and prime target, right? Just asking to get picked off by, you know, whatever. And in order to combat this issue, Games Workshop has introduced the second rule that I mentioned, and that is that independent characters can no longer be targeted directly unless they are the nearest unit to the firing unit. So this is kind of similar to a mechanic that they used to have in earlier editions of 40k, where you had to do target priority and you had to take a leadership test, things like that. But this is a little bit different. It only applies to independent characters with 10 wounds or less, which is an important distinction. So super big guys like Magnus the Red, not going to benefit from this rule. You can still target him right off the bat, regardless of how close he is. But things like Reboote Gilliman, RG, our boy RG, he benefits from this. He doesn't have to worry about being shot at unless he's the closest thing. So again, more emphasis on movement, more emphasis on maneuverability, and I mean, movement was always a huge part of the game, but it's even a bigger part in 8th edition. This is consistent with everything else that we've heard about how important moving is in 8th edition. So you can get around that by good placement. But it means, like, you know, you have a Primarch walking around and you can't shoot at him unless he's the closest guy. And so I think that 10 wound threshold, it might be a little bit high. It seems like there's a lot of really important dudes that I would normally want to shoot at that I can't shoot at because they have 9 wounds. And it's like, come on. But still, I think this is a simple mechanic. It distinguishes the big bads and the vehicles and the monstrous creatures simply from the smaller independent characters, and that's fine. And I really like this bubble mechanic. I think it's going to make things a lot simpler, and it will reward people who are able to build their army with some foresight and maneuver that army appropriately, and it'll punish people that don't do those things. Yeah, and I'm fine with a mechanic having winners and losers so long as everyone has equal opportunity to participate in being a winner or a loser, and it's up to you whether or not you're the winner or the loser. And I think this mechanic is fine. I think this mechanic does that. So, all right, thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and of course, happy wargaming.